Welcome to Breakthrough Results by Leading Response. Each episode will feature a Leading Response host and their guest, discussing tips and tricks on how they achieve breakthrough results. This is a place to learn how to grow your business from people just like you.
Hello, everyone. I am Jerry Lanier, VP of Sales at Leading Response. I am excited today to bring together some very powerful minds in the Medicare marketing and sales space. I've got an interesting group to have a lively discussion about how you can grow your Medicare agency, bring in new business. And I've got Leading Response. I've got Jim Nicholson and Mike Cloutier from Leading Response. I have a special guest that I'll introduce in a minute. Leading Response has really made a strong push in Medicare marketing in the past 12 months. We've reached more than 4.2 million consumers and have moved 63,000 consumers in need of Medicare assistance and connected them in part with a Medicare expert in their local market. So we're going to talk about some awesome marketing strategies, techniques that you can implement immediately to make that happen. And then our special guest, Justin Brock, is the CEO of Bobby Brock Insurance Agency. He's going to give you some perspective from the other side once you meet with that new prospect, that new consumer, and how to take that relationship to the next level. Not only is he running an agency, but he's also created some really cool tools and training systems to help as you move forward in your business. So Justin's put together Go Guru University Sales System and Go Guru Pro, a CRM platform to help organize your business. And he's also got a very cool conference that he's planning. I'll let him talk to you more about that later in the discussion. So with that, let's bring Justin on first. Justin, I know you're super passionate about Medicare. So I have to ask you, why this huge impetus, this huge focus on Medicare?
Well, here, obviously, when you're looking for a market to build a business in, you want one that's growing, and there's probably no, market like, senior services that is exploding, currently. So many people are turning 65 every day. It's been a drum that's been beat for the last several years, but it hasn't really changed. The 10 to 11,000 people turning 65 a day is still true and still going to be true for several years. And then it doesn't really cliff off even after that point in the future. It just kind of plateaus for a little while. So it's still going to be tons and tons of people aging in, and the infrastructure that's out there is just not good enough for the industry. And so our passion within the industry is for creating actual agencies that serve the marketplace well and are looking at it as a place to build a long-term business. There's been a lot of, maybe private equity money that's come in and popped up some call centers and things that have honestly, not marketed with quality, in my opinion. And so there's been a lot, it's just an influx of confusion into the marketplace with TV commercials and all that kind of stuff. And so, kudos to Leading Response as one of our marketing partners for helping with a way to get in front of people in a way that adds value to them, creates a relationship, and creates a lifetime client. And that's what we're trying to do. Our passion really for Medicare is about a marketplace that drastically needs help and a very underserved community, because the people that are serving them, the agents are in them, are not being trained to effectively market with quality and an emphasis on being there as a resource or building a business as a resource for those clients for decades to come, for the rest of their life. Because it's not about signing them up to 65. It's about getting them as a client, building service teams and processes around what you do to keep them as a client for the rest of their life. And coincidentally, if you keep them as a client for the rest of their life, you actually make more money too. So it's like doing the right thing for people makes you more money. So it's not like one or the other. You can build a practice where you make more money by doing the right thing. And that's what the marketplace needs. And that's what we're passionate about.
So I think what's really cool there is you just described what I would say is a journey. And I know that Leading Response is huge on the emotional part of marketing and connecting consumers with experts that can help them. Mike, he mentioned something there. And for everybody on the webinar, Mike is our director of sales. He's personally helped move more than 420,000 consumers to seminars and events and a variety of different financial services companies, insurance agencies. So he's got a wealth of knowledge, huge into psychology. Justin mentioned something right there where these carriers, these Medicare companies are out there with telephone rooms and with telephone rooms and television commercials, really just out there. How does an independent agent, how do they compete with those massive budgets?
I mean, it's really about being personable. So that's going to be the one thing that's going to set them apart from these large carriers. You know, they're seeing a ton of noise on the TV, through radio, through in-personal advertising. And one thing that really sets our journey apart here internally is we really put in that personal effort to make that connection with that consumer looking to make a big decision into a product that is very confusing to them. So making that personal connection with a local expert is very important to what we do as a company and how we guide through consulting to those agents that are looking for a solution that's going to match well with that consumer, making that very important decision. So that's really what kind of sets our process apart from what these large carriers are doing and why we bring so much value to the industry.
Now I'm gonna pivot over to Jen here for a second, because I know she's worked with Medicare, really the entire industry, from agent to agency to IMO, FMO, and even to the carriers. And those discussions are hugely different. Jen has worked with over 500 Medicare agents in the last 12 months, has a huge background in Medicare. And I think what I want to expand on here is that movement. How, Jen, does the independent agent, how can they reach a consumer in a very restrictive local market versus trying to market across the country or even in a broadcast area with television or with search marketing?
Yeah, so I've been working with Justin for several years, and we really targeted and we really looked at the specific demographics we need to target. So typically, what we do is, we're running a radius around your location, targeting people who are turning 65 in the next 3 to 6 months. And that's the demographic we're really going for. We know that those people need to make a decision in a short period of time. And most importantly, they need to be educated when they can make that decision, when they can enroll, how soon they can enroll. So, working with a local agent that knows the area, knows the plans in the area, is definitely what we want to get them in front of. That's the most important thing. And that's where Justin and I really became good partners, is because this is the passion of what we're trying to do. We're trying to get local agents to become community Medicare experts. And the way you can do that is targeting in your backyard with those specific demographics.
So you have a personal story about how confusing this Medicare journey can be. Why don't you share with the audience here that's on this webinar a little bit about your own experience and what these consumers are going through, kind of where the other shoe for a minute.
Yeah, so I do have a personal connection with Medicare. My husband became disabled at the age of 35. I had 3 small toddlers at the time. I worked for the Walt Disney Company, who had 50,000 employees. I was on a Cigna VIP plan. What that basically means is I could have babies for $100. That's why I ended up with 3. But when my husband became disabled, I kept him on my Cigna plan, thinking that was the right thing to do. He was seeking a lot of medical attention, going to the Cleveland Clinic, doing some other things. So once I left my career with the Walt Disney Company after 13 years, it took me 8 months, a lot of pulling out my hair, a lot of research, a lot of help. And I didn't know where to go to really help him with Medicare. I went to Medicare.gov. I researched that, and I felt like I was, I am college educated. I'm smart enough, but it was very complex. And even talking to my parents, who were, just of age of turning 65, they were in corporate America. They had a financial advisor who was helping them with their finances, but not helping them with their Medicare. So I really understand the need to be out there and educating people and getting in front of them and helping them, because I struggled. And I can't imagine, being of 65 and how challenging that is to find help that you need. So,
I think this is a great point here because it highlights when consumers identify that they have a problem or an upcoming decision and they just don't know where to turn. What makes Leading Response unique is giving them a platform to learn more about a particular topic. And Jen, I know you've had a lot of experience coordinating educational workshops and events for consumers to come meet Medicare agents. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that works and kind of the experience that we've seen?
yeah, so typically we do a Medicare 101 educational dinner event. We've done these with Justin for many years. We typically mail, 3 to 4,000 pieces and get a response of a 1.5 to 2%. We're getting in front of 25 to 30 people per night, who are qualified of turning 65. Um, the great thing about that is, you're talking and getting in front of them for 30 minutes, feeding them a meal, and then booking appointments afterwards, right at the event. And that's been the success. And I know Justin has done these for numerous years with me, and has sent me many agents and brokers that we continue to work with. But these programs with direct mail work so well because we can target that specific demographic and really help them get in front of qualified prospects. We do everything. We just want you to show up, do the presentation, book the appointments. But we create the invite, pull the list, take your reservations. We want you to do what you're best at and let us get the butts in seats to really help you get in front of those qualified prospects.
So that's a beautiful segue for the other man, Justin, on this call to talk about what the agents go through when they're in front of a group of seniors that are weighing a Medicare decision. As an agent, how do you maybe calm yourself in front of that room? How do you answer the questions ahead of time, prepare for that presentation to be effective, and then finally pull it off at the event?
Yeah, I'm going to back up into just kind of our, like the way we see this in our entire marketing plan is, we have kind of a short-term, midterm, long-term approach to marketing. Our long-term, we always are preaching building a brand and being known in your community, whatever your designated marketing area is. And you can do this virtually and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that doesn't work, but I think a lot of people sleep on the being known really heavily in a small geographical location. So for us, we targeted this DMA. It's a DMA here where and DMA means designated market area where we focused on where the TV stations overlap in this area. That's probably 30-40 miles out radius wise from us, and we've done that for a long time, and we didn't do seminars for years, and eventually started thinking, why are we not doing seminars? And so so when we talk about a full marketing plan, we're going short term, midterm, long term. We say seminars is our midterm. So what seminars is for us is it's a way to get in front of the people that we're already advertising to. It's not that we don't want to use Facebook and we don't want to use traditional media and we don't want to use all that. But if somebody was starting out completely new and they had to make something work right away, I'd say seminars would be one of the first things I put in their back pocket, because you're able to get in front of people right away, right? And when you're in that room, and this is what we hear from people all the time, the objection is, well, I'm not a speaker, I'm not a blah, blah, blah. Great. Being a public speaker in these rooms is not necessarily a good thing. Being your authentic self and normal, you're talking to a lot of normal, American retirees. The people that tend to respond to these, for us, it's blue collar, America. You get a little bit of, we've had some federal retirees, we've had some doctors that have retired, we've had some people that are, on the lower income side, but the average person that's in there is somebody who's, they're staring down the barrel of, metaphorically, retirement, and they've been working at a tire factory or a car manufacturer or, Walmart distribution center, somewhere like that their whole life. And they're just looking for somebody to explain the stuff in a way that they understand. So the more simple the presentation, the better. And it's all about making an impression that you can explain this stuff, easily. And then they'll want to set up one-on-one appointments with you. And that's what I know everybody wants. They love the one-on-one appointments. It's more comfortable than sitting up in front of people. This is not a hard group. One thing we have, noticed, and this is something I think people should be aware, so that when they do it, they're not in their own head. The people will stare at you completely, completely empty and blank. And it's not because they're not hearing what you say, and it's not because they're confused. It's because that's just how people are when they're listening and learning. They're not on stage, so they're checked out and they're doing it. We've done enough of these now that we know that even though the whole time you're up there, they're staring at you and you're getting nervous because you're like, oh, what are they thinking? Don't worry about that, because after it's over, like almost unanimously, the result has been, thank you for explaining this stuff to us. It's really confusing. We want to set up appointments. One thing we do when we get these rooms full is we try to bring as many people as possible. That's not always easy for a singular agent, but even when we have agencies we've referred over to Jen to get set up, we'll try to encourage them to bring your wife or bring your husband, or bring somebody, bring somebody from church, whatever, to help just facilitate a good environment and have one more person to talk to them. So since we have several agents internally, we'll send crews, so we have a minimum 3 agents go to each seminar, and normally we'll try to do a 4th or 5th if possible. And the reason we do that is because you get to, after it's over, when people are eating and all that, you get to engage in a lot of quality conversation one-on-one. So I would keep the presentation simple, nuts and bolts, and then get into those individual conversations. People can fill out permission to contacts or request to schedule appointments, all that kind of stuff. And then on the back end, some of the other reservations we've gotten from people on seminars is the meal calls. Meal calls is not that bad. One of the good things Medicare does for you is they limit how much you can pay. So you have a good reason legally. You can even tell your group there, like, hey, I'm sorry we don't have prime rib, and glasses of Chardonnay, but the Medicare requires us to limit the meal cost to $15. So hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, let us know. And then that's just a simple way to kind of joke around why they have a set menu. So what we do is we found a restaurant that works for us in a few towns now, but they normally have a decent little AV room, just a TV or something. But even if they don't have a TV, by the way, because this is sometimes people have trouble finding this venue, right? Even if they don't have that, you can print off the slides. So you can have them sitting there with a slideshow you put on there. We do that anyway. Even though the restaurants that we use have AV rooms and we put it on the TV, we print off the slideshows for them. We're stapling cards to them, putting them contact info in there. And that way they can follow along. Because a lot of times, even when there is AV, it's, you're talking to people that are 65. They might not be able to see that little TV on the wall. So that's one reservation we get. It's meal costs, not a big deal. Then we get asked about plate liquors. They say, the old plate liquor terms, are people just going to show up to eat and leave? We have had that happen. But interestingly, the plate liquors end up typically being low-income Medicare Advantage and dual special needs prospects. And so a lot of these people that I think probably came as a plate liquor have turned into customers still. So we had one time, and it's very rare for this to happen, but we did have one time where like this whole family kind of showed up. They RSVP'd for 2, but they showed up with like their kids, and the whole family was on Medicare. So it was like, it was disability it was 2 disability Medicares, a husband that was already like 73 and on Medicare, and then the wife was turning 65. And we ended up writing all 4 of them a plan. So plate liquors turn into good customers too, I guess. But really, there's no real good reservation for it. It's all kind of in somebody's head. It's probably the best bang for your buck marketing that you can do right out of the gate.
So he just gave a huge amount of golden nuggets here. We got to unpack some of this stuff, right? So the social proof of having a full room, pack them in as much as you can, as much as you can manage, because that in itself gives a huge level of comfort to the people that you're a stranger to them. So there's zero trust until you give them a reason to trust. Mike, you mentioned restaurants. I'm going to come to you for this one. Why restaurants over other options? Hotels and even libraries or golf communities. Like why restaurants?
Well, I think the reason that that we view restaurants in such a positive light is it's a place where people break bread. It's a place that they're going to be very familiar with. They've gone there with their family. They know exactly how to get there. There's good signage. There's usually good parking. They know the escape routes. So there's a lot of comfort there. And they're getting something in return for their time. So they don't know what to expect when they respond to that invitation, to that offer in particular. So it gives them a little bit more motivation to go hear about something they're not familiar with, and then wait for some of those nuggets to come across during the presentation to really drive their next decisions. So you don't necessarily get this from some of these other locations. And as marketers, we always base recommendations off of consumer engagement, which restaurants just tend to hit the mark and give our clients the best bang for their buck. So that's why we typically gravitate towards restaurants. But any venue that is inquired about, we're always transparent. We set the right expectations. So usually all
I agree. We've done financial services seminars at like community colleges and things like that, and I think it's also a demographic thing where I do think the reason we get the dinner stars is we get a lot of the blue collar market. And, when I mean blue collar, I mean like kind of your middle class, lower middle class income earners. When we've done the university financial focus, and some of that's about targeting, but you pull out you can get people there that wouldn't show up at the dinner seminar, but their level of intent is much lower. Typically for us, it's like there's a much bigger wall to break down to get into those conversations in those settings. Something about being in the restaurant, and then you bring them in, you get everybody there, then they come in, they're taking their drink order, they're taking their order, and then after the order's taken, you start to deliver, and then you stop and pause and let them come in and start, and put out the food, and then they're eating while they're listening to the second half. And normally you're finishing up before they finished eating, so you're kind of getting to go around and sit at tables with people and answer questions in real time. And like that break bread comment, it's like you're eating with them, like you're, and it just turns into. I think they do get more comfortable, and it's not, and the feeding them concept, and keep in mind, that our experience with it has been in what I would, rural small towns, like 50. We aim at towns with like a population of 50,000 to 100,000, like when we were doing them internally. But so I can't speak for if you tried to do this in lower Manhattan, but our experience in where we do them is that the people that are coming are in the middle class, and I keep harping on that because they're my favorite customers to help. Middle class people, they're not broke, but they're not rich, and that demo, they tend to be more prone to buy coverage for things that would impact them more heavily. So like when we're able to cross sell hospital indemnity with Medicare Advantage or critical illness policies with Medicare supplements, a really wealthy person doesn't necessarily need that. They're self-insured against burial. They're self-insured against, a critical illness diagnosis as long as they have their Medicare supplement, all that. But in the middle class, if they had to pay for a cancer medication and it hit them for $10,000 one year, that could be a huge train wreck to their entire financial plan, So having a $30 a month policy that protects them for that, they'll be more inclined to purchase that. So we actually find that the middle class are the most appreciative, the easiest to work with, and they tend to be more prone to buy that financial protection because their nest egg isn't enough to also self-insure for all these different things that can come up. So I just think it's a great group.
I think this is an important note too, because that middle class, because they're not wealthy to the point where a bad decision is insignificant, they weigh the decision more carefully. They want more research, and they're maybe not hesitant, but they're more cautious in their decision making. And I think giving them a platform to learn more in a safety in numbers environment, someplace that they've been before, lends huge benefits to not only the agent in meeting people, but getting consumers that platform. Mike, one of my favorite stories of all time, you and I went to a seminar, a financial seminar, and reading body language. The advisor talked to us about, arms crossed and people turned away. And by the end of the event, being able to identify in the room who was really engaged. I know Justin talked about it a little bit with the kind of glazed over stares of trying to process all of this information at the same time. Do you want to talk a little bit about how to read a room?
Yeah, absolutely. I think reading the room actually starts from the beginning of the process and kind of how you manage the consumer journey through responding to marketing efforts. And that just starts from the initial engagement of making an introduction. So they receive an offer to go to an event. They respond to a call center. And then a couple of days later, they get a contact from that advisor's office with somebody who's going to be at the event. So they set the tone the right way. So when that consumer walks into that restaurant to meet with a group that they're not familiar with, they start lowering their guard a little bit. They see Jan, who they talk to on the phone. They go, "Hey, I know you." It's that whole social dynamic of you're looking for your comfort zone when you walk into a group that you're not familiar with. So they started from the first step. They sit down into that room full of other consumers who are very similar to them, but they're not familiar with. Then they start getting value, and they start hearing things that are similar to their own personal situation. But a lot of these seminars are very high level. They're very personal. A lot of what we hear and what we heard at that particular event were situations that pretty much every consumer could probably fit into their own story. But they go from crossed arms to open arms to feverishly writing things down. And then you start seeing that interest level. So body language is definitely important. And, it's a good way to know that you've connected with those consumers. And the appointment part of that process is the validation that the advisors see at the end of that presentation. They get that conversation going. They get questions thrown their way, and it really kind of sets the tone the right way for those appointments that happen in the office and via the phone after the presentation.
I think it's key here too. If you're reading a room and you're interacting with the audience and you're looking for audience participation, you probably don't want to call on the person that still has their arms crossed and is turned away. You can do show of hands versus calling on an individual. That's always a safe one. And one of the techniques I think that's interesting is asking the audience if they have questions. A lot of times the audience is a little bit scared to be the first to react. So as an agent, you need to be prepared with maybe some of those most commonly asked questions to say, hey, it's okay. I know that people are kind of apprehensive. Here are some things that we usually hear, and that'll kind of get things going and gain some participation. Before we move on to some of the sales focus, what happens after the event, I want to talk about one more thing that Justin mentioned, and he labeled it plate lickers. And I think this is really interesting because Leading Response has a different viewpoint on them. We look at them as Hollywood extras or seat fillers. If you've followed Hollywood at all, they view that having every seat at these big award shows is so important that they actually hire people to come in and fill a seat where a celebrity gets up to go accept the award. Because when that camera pans, they need the social proof that this is so important that there's not a single empty seat in the entire arena. So you should treat your seminars, your educational workshops in the same manner. It's important to have the seats full so that when these people walk in, they go, I made a good decision. There's other people just like me that have concerns, that have questions. I'm not alone. I'm not isolated. This isn't going to be a high pressure situation because look at this, there's safety in numbers. So that's a key point that I wanted to talk about. Now, Justin, he mentioned also, hey, moving some of these off of just a Medicare Advantage plan and transitioning them into other policies. I think this is a great opportunity for him to talk a little bit more about Go Guru University, Go Guru CRM, and see how that could fit in the prospect management of what happens after an event.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing we see agents, coming into the marketplace, not getting the proper training because a newer agent, first of all, an FMO that exists, and this should just be no matter who the FMO is, it could be great FMOs out there, but no matter who they are, a brand new agent with they're just not going to have the time to spend with you if you're an independent producer whose most of the commissions associated with your sales are assigned to you. And so if you're one of those agents and you're thinking, I don't get the support that I need, and that's why I haven't been successful yet, we identified that is a problem, and it's not specific to your. Not be that you need to change your FMO. It might just be that you need to prove that you're going to do something so that they can spend the time with you. Because unfortunately, in this industry, most of these salespeople do fail because they're not able to get in front of enough people, and or they don't get in front of them consistently enough. Because it's even with these seminars, it's a consistent thing. The goal would be to do several. And right now we're doing 4 seminars a month as part of our agency marketing plan, right? And sometimes I wish we did more, but that is a consistent concept, right? It's just keeping that momentum going. But for the reason, since we identified that as an issue, and we thought, we can't spend individual one-on-one time with every one of these agents either, but we can create all the training that we give them in an interactive platform. And so actually what happened was when COVID first became an issue, shut down everything. I would say Mississippi was probably one of the states that shut down for the least amount of time, but I got about a solid month where I was locked in my home office, and I said, okay, I have a lot of free time right now because nobody's bothering me. My wife still knew I had to work, so she was like shielding the kids from me, and I was locked in there, and I started producing the content of laying out a lot of this information that I had just never had the time to do before. So I kind of used that month of heavy lockdown to create a lot of the precipice of this content. And the first thing we put out was a thing called Medicare Academy. And then during that same time, I thought the under 65 world is very parallel to us. And so we created a thing called Health Insurance University. Well, we met Bradley and went on his podcast about a year later, a little over a year later, and he owned the Lightspeed VT company, which has an interactive learning platform where you can create, a platform where someone can decide how the lesson's going to go based on their experience level or where they want it to go. I don't know if anybody's seen like the Bear Grylls show on Netflix where you get to decide.
Mhm.
So it's the same technology within our learning platform where you get to decide, like, okay, are you an intermediate agent? Are you an experienced agent? Have you sold Medicare supplements or have you sold Medicare Advantage? And it gets to help create a path. And so we started working with him, and we did about 10 hours of filmed content specifically in his studio that was scripted out to help create the introduction into our different training. And as part of that university, what we started doing is we'll just extend this to anyone. So it has a nominal monthly fee. But when you get in that university, and there's a few of these out there, the one thing that we didn't want it to be is static and not growing. And so we created every week there's a live call that with anybody that's in that university can get on that call. It doesn't matter if they're affiliated with us hierarchically or anything like that. It's all about, are you a member of the university? And we're given the same information that we would give to anybody that worked in our office. It also kind of creates a sense of community because anybody that's ever done this stuff out there on your own, you can be on a high horse, and then when you don't have anybody to celebrate with, you can get burnout. You can get kind of dazed and confused. And thankfully, I've created a team around me where we're kind of high-fiving each other all day. But most agents out there starting from scratch don't have that. And even some of them that have been in it for several years that are going don't have that. And so the university can create that through the camaraderie in those calls. And each week we try to tackle a new topic, and we turn that into a new lesson that we then keep recorded in-house in that growing library of organized content. And then off of that evolve the fact that, when we came into the industry, when I came into the industry, and we started looking at how we could leverage, technology to automate contacts or automate lead sourcing, or, organize what we've done and what our agents that are working with us have done. Those platforms were very expensive. I mean, you were having to partner with companies like Salesforce back then and hire a Salesforce engineer. And I knew people that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building out their version of Salesforce to do everything they did. And Salesforce is a great system. I'm not saying it's not. It's probably one of the most capable Canvas CRMs that are out there. But most people just can't afford to do that, and so we created a CRM where you can have an agency account with unlimited users that work for you for $97 a month. And it's actually been very robust. We partner with a company called High Level to do it, and we created a white label. And High Level is kind of like Salesforce, and so their platform is made for all kinds of industries. What we did is took an enterprise version of it that's HIPAA compliant and all that, and basically created these campaigns. We have campaigns in there that we use for our seminar leads. We have campaigns in there we use for Facebook webinars. We have campaigns that we use for when they come through our website organically, all kinds of stuff. So, and when we already have those campaigns, those website templates, all that in there, somebody's getting access to all that we've created for $97 a month as well. So those two products have become a core part of our offering. Obviously, we love our agency and want to grow our agency and grow our partnership with our carrier partners too. But we realize that sometimes someone is with an FMO that they like or have a relationship with, because we've had those relationships too. And it's not necessarily they want to move their contracts all the time to get something. And so a lot of people are saying, oh, we'll give you this if you move your contracts. We're saying you can stay with FMO A, B, C, D, whatever you want to. And these platforms you can get for what we consider pennies on the dollar for the value proposition on the back end.
And I think this is huge, because we've seen a lot of agents, a lot of financial advisors. The ones that tend to be successful in any marketing approach, not just seminars, are the ones that are organized and that have a plan to move the prospect through the journey. I know that we have a technology platform, an event management tool that helps advisors and agents manage event attendees. That system integrates with most of the CRMs. If it doesn't directly integrate, we also have Zapier. So it makes it easy to get your prospects out of your event management tool into your CRM so you can have that continued follow-up. Justin has a great system for that, and can teach you the varying ways to cross-sell and make more money for your Medicare agency through Go Guru University. Real quick, we're about to wrap this thing up. I'm going to go rapid fire around the horn. Mike, what is the biggest mistake that you see Medicare agents make when trying to market and grow their business?
Not engage consulting. I would say that's the biggest mistake that I see. Looking towards experts that kind of take their bias out of the equation. They look at what's working and they pass along the knowledge that they know based on data is going to help them really build their business.
How about you, Jen? Do you agree with Mike? You got a different biggest mistake that agents make?
I would agree with Mike, but the one thing that I hear the most when I'm talking with agents is the challenge that, they're buying leads, they're trying to call people, trying to get them on the phone. We have a system in place with seminars where they're coming to you and seeking your help. If you're looking to grow your business quickly, like Justin said, this is the quickest, easiest way to get in front of qualified prospects instead of trying to chase them down and get them on the phone. That's what I hear the most.
All right, we're going to wrap this up with Justin. How about you, Justin? What's the biggest mistake that Medicare agents make?
So there's a lot of them. I think if you get into it and you laser focus on one, product set, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage Part D first, and you don't underestimate how much you need to invest in marketing for the first 12 months to really get your engine burning. And then you begin to, add value to your own business by growing out, of that, like learning how to cross sell additional products and all that. But trying to know everything from the beginning, like when we have our university, you should be looking to add a blade to your Swiss Army knife, maybe one little blade a month, and that can be learning how to sell plan N over plan G. And then it can be learning how to help someone when they're on an $80 Part D plan and you're like, hey, you're on the wrong plan. I get them on a $14 plan. Now maybe I use some of that savings they just saved on the Part D to cover the fact that cancer drugs are not adequately covered. So let's get them a cancer policy. These are all tiny little things you look for, but over a lifetime, if I'm sitting in an appointment with a Medicare beneficiary, it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen The Hangover when Alan's sitting at the blackjack table and he sees numbers, and because he can read the cards, right? Well, I can now see an infinite number of possibilities on how I can help this person better their situation. And you just can't expect to, pick up a book like Alan did and read it on the way in and be able to do it. It takes, months and then years. And I learn stuff every week about this business because there's a lot of nuances. So just look at it as a long-term play that is well worth it. It's a great industry. It's a growing industry, and we need quality people that are going to stand the test of time within our industry to help all these people that need help.
So it sounds like, to sum this up, Justin says, if you're not investing in yourself, if you're not investing and staying up to date with all of the continually changing, pick one thing at a time. Don't try to go overboard. Invest in one thing at a time, and it'll pay dividends for your company. So with that, we're going to wrap this up. On behalf of Jen, Justin, and Mike, Jerry signing off with the Leading Response team.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.